Hey guys, today we're going to learn a bunch of vocab words that can be used to describe angles, and we're also going to go over how to figure out what kind of angles you're looking at. You're going to see a lot of diagrams like this, so please don't let this freak you out, even though I know there are a lot of lines going on in there. I'm going to show you 4 vocab words that can be used to describe this, and I think it'll make a lot more sense. First thing I want to do is I'm just going to go through and number this, so you know what angle I'm talking about. Okay, first things first. We've already talked about complementary angles. Complementary angles are any angles that can be put together to add up to 90 degrees. If you need help remembering that, remember turn this into a 9. And that's really easy to see. Complementary angles are 90 degrees. These are always going to be next to each other. So let's take a look. I know that this angle 6 is 90 degrees, which means that the relationship between this line and, this line and this line is creating 90-degree angles on all 4 sides. So if I'm looking for 2 angles that I could put together to make 90 degrees, I'm looking for one of these really nice 90-degree angles that's been split. I can see that angles 5 and 4 are splitting a 90-degree angle, so these 2 would be considered complementary. See if you can see another one in there. What other 90-degree angle is being split by a line? I hope you saw that that's number 1 and number 2. There's a nice 90-degree angle here, and this line is splitting it to make angles 1 and 2. So these are also complementary. Anytime you can put angles together and they'll add up to 90 degrees, they're complementary. Supplementary angles are anytime you can put 2 angles together and it'll equal 180 degrees. The way to remember that is that you can turn this S into an 8 by drawing a little line, and that's just an easy way to remember that they're going to equal 180 degrees. Anything that equals 180 degrees creates a perfectly straight line. So I'm going to find a perfectly straight line, and I have 3 of them. I'm going to look at this line here. Let me use a different color so you can see that. I'm looking at this line here, and 180 degrees would get me from here to here. So if I go through and number my angles again, all of the angles that come together to make this straight line would be supplementary angles. So in this case, my 3 angles are angle 1, 2, and 3. These 3 together are going to be supplementary angles. There are a bunch of them on here though. If I look along this line, I know this line equals 180 degrees. So if I trace this whole line, I can see the angles 2, 3, and 4 come together to create a straight line. So 2, 3, and 4 would be supplementary. There are 2 other vocab words you need to know. Vertical. Vertical means angles that are opposite each other. There we go. They also share a vertex. A vertex is a place where 2 lines meet. So let me show you an example of vertical angles. Angles 1 and 4 are vertical angles. They're opposite each other and they share a point right here in the center. These angles are also congruent. Congruent means the same. So if I told you that angle 4 was 30 degrees, then that means angle 1 also has to be 30 degrees. Vertical angles are opposite each other, they share a vertex, and they're congruent, which means they're the same. Another example of vertical angles would be angle 6 and angle 3. They're opposite each other, they share a vertex, and they're congruent. Angle 6 is a right angle, Angle 3 is also a right angle, which means they're 90 degrees. There's one more example of vertical angles here, and that would be angle 5 and angle 2. They're opposites, they share a vertex, and they're the same. If this one is 50 degrees, angle 2 also has to be 50 degrees. The last word that you need to know is adjacent. Adjacent means next to. So adjacent angles are angles that share a line. So if I number these one more time, angle 1 and angle 2 are adjacent because they share this line. Angle 5 and angle 4 are adjacent because they share this line. Angle 3 and angle 4 are adjacent because they share a line. Angle 6 and 5 are adjacent, they share a line. Angle 1 and 6 are adjacent, they share a line. There might be one that I missed in there, but I hope you get the point that adjacent means any angles that are next to each other. In your practice today, you'll just be identifying and practicing with these vocab words. Your turn.